If the police interrogate you without reading you your Miranda rights, can the judge throw out your case? If you're curious as to the answer, then you're gonna wanna watch this video because I'm here to break it down for you. My name is Jamahl Kersey and I'm a criminal defense attorney in San Diego, California. And in this video, I'll be talking about the Miranda rule and what you can do if you believe the police violated your rights. So before we get into the violations, let's talk about the Miranda rights themselves and how they came to be. Miranda rights get their name from Ernesto Miranda. Miranda kidnapped and raped a young lady in Arizona back in 1963. Sometime after the incident, police confronted Miranda and he voluntarily went to the police station with them. The victim pointed him out in a lineup. Miranda was then placed under arrest and taken into an interrogation room where police questioned him for 2 whole hours. Eventually, Miranda broke down and confessed. He handwrote and signed a confession saying that he committed the kidnapping and the rape. However, he was never advised of his right to remain silent nor his right to have an attorney present. He ended up going to trial on the case. His attorney argued that his statement should be excluded. However, the judge admitted the confession and he was ultimately convicted. He appealed and the case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The US Supreme Court overturned the conviction, deciding that the confession should not have been admitted into evidence at trial because the police did not advise Miranda of the right to remain silent and the right to consult with counsel. Miranda was given a new trial, and this time the prosecutor was not able to put the confession before the jury. Miranda was again convicted as the evidence was strong enough to convince the jury even without the confession. If you're getting value out of this, please do me a favor and hit the like button. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. So when you agree to answer police questions after an arrest, you're giving up 2 very important rights: the 5th Amendment right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, and the 6th Amendment right to have a lawyer present during questioning. These rights are so important that the highest court has ruled that you can't just give them up voluntarily unless you're made aware of them first. The rule under Miranda is that the information that police get from questioning a witness who's in custody is admissible as evidence at trial only if the police issued the Miranda warning prior to questioning. So one of the issues that comes up in these cases is whether the person was in custody. You might be thinking that a person is in custody if they're in jail, right? Well, that's true, but it actually goes further than that. For purposes of Miranda, a person is in custody if a reasonable person under the same circumstances would not feel free to leave or otherwise terminate the interrogation. So if a person would not feel free to leave, they're in police custody, and this could be on the street, in a park, at a library, or anywhere. So now we know that if a person is in custody, the police must recite the Miranda warning. You've heard it time and time again on cop shows and in the movies. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And these aren't just empty words. A DA absolutely will use your words against you in court. You have a right to consult with a lawyer and have a lawyer present during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you at no cost. Okay, so now we know what the Miranda rule is and when the police must issue a Miranda warning. So then the next question is, what happens if the police take your statement but fail to issue the proper warning? A lot of people believe that this would be grounds to have your case thrown out. Now, this is not exactly the case. As we discussed above, the statements and the information obtained in violation of Miranda are inadmissible at trial. This in and of itself would not automatically result in a dismissal. As we saw in the Miranda case itself, the second time around at trial, the confession was not admissible at the trial. However, the prosecution was still able to secure the conviction because they still had the victim's testimony and any other evidence they still had against Miranda. As a practical matter, the way Miranda plays out in court is at trial. So right before the trial, there are what are called motions in limine. And this is where the defense and the DA make their arguments as to what evidence the jury should be able to see and what evidence should not be presented before the jury. If there is a supposed Miranda violation, the defense would have to move to have those statements excluded from the trial. And if the statements are crucial to the prosecution's case and the statements are excluded, then this could lead to the prosecutor making a motion to dismiss the case. However, if the prosecutor feels like their case is strong even without the defendant's statements, they'd likely continue forward. One of the challenges with Miranda is that you pretty much have to go to trial in order to argue the violation, since it's a rule that has to do with the admissibility of evidence at trial. And with that said, a skilled attorney can use this to their advantage. If the defense attorney knows the case heavily relies on the defendant's statements, he can try and convince the DA that they're not going to be able to get the statements in at trial. And so therefore, depending on the strength of this argument, he can request either a dismissal or at least a plea to a lesser charge. So that's a brief explanation on how Miranda works. If you made it this far, you might just be interested in the law, or perhaps you or someone you know is facing criminal charges. If that's the case, feel free to reach out. You can give us a call at 619-399-3366 for a free consultation. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.